This episode is broadcasting as ever from the anarchist sanctuary of Portland, Oregon. And today's episode is brought to you by that weird smell that gets stuck in my mask when I go for a run longer than 3 miles and then I bump into somebody running the other way. They're about 6 feet away, so then I have to pull my mask up and it smells like beard oil and coffee breath a little bit. This episode is brought to you by that. And now, here's a song. I hallucinate when you call my name. Stars in my eyes. And now, here they are, your venerable hosts, Carlos, Kareem, Linda. And that's how we know we're officially here. Welcome to another episode. This is going to be a light touch on the smoke episode. As you are aware, very often I am in conversation, and I'm happy to be in conversation again. I can't even tell you, with folks who come from various worlds. This show, this is not B reels in the trunk or whatever. I don't know what that's called. This is not getting dug with high. This is not that. If you're home doing what you do, do what you do. Do what you do. This is not about overindulgence. This is smoke and the mirrors. And today we're going to get more into the mirrors. It's going to be great. Oh my goodness, look at this. Look at this. We got someone tuning in from New Zealand. Holy jabeez. Look at that. Y'all get to go outside again. You don't even got to wear a mask on your stink hole. That's good for you. Congratulations. Hey, normally this is the part where I say things about where you can leave some money for this show. Let me say a thing about that right off the top. Do not. I am dead ass serious. I'm going to be so pissed. Do not Venmo me. Don't Cash App me. Don't PayPal me. Certainly do not sign up for Patreon. Not today. Okay. What you could do though, what I would love it if you would do, you're not as cool as Ruthie, Erica, Amber, Aaron, Seth, Lisa, Kristen, Renise, Michael, Natalie, Juliet, Tarika, and Tracy, who are patrons. It's not time for you to become one yet, because what I'd like you to do is this. I would like very much for you to instead go to Free the Vote, okay? I want you to go to Free the Vote. That is wegothevote.org/free the vote. Now, I am not suggesting for 1 minute that what we do here and what I'm doing here isn't important and isn't the highest caliber of a cannabis show that you could find anywhere on this planet, mostly because of the centering of the brown and black women and femmes that we do here. But I will say this, too, that it is also a place where I talk about the mainstream politics, too. Not because I believe in them. I don't. Let me be very clear. Sniffy Joe is not somebody I want to be president. Let me be equally clear. I do not want a Nazi to be president. Those are the only two choices, and there's not much that we can do about it besides vote. So I'd like you to do that. If you go to Free the Vote, who you're helping vote now are the Floridians who have been given back their right to vote. That is everybody who had been formerly incarcerated, who had been given back their rights to vote. Guess what? One of these horrible people that 45 has nominated to be the next Supreme Court judge made a ruling that said, got to pay all of your fines you've ever had in history to anybody, or we're not going to give you that right to vote. Do you know what that's called? That's called a voting tax. Do you know what that is? That's fucking illegal, or at least it was until all of the voters' rights were lifted up by the Supreme Court when Scalia was there. Thank God he's dead. Anyway, point being this. Go to Free the Vote. Do not give us money. Don't do that. I'm going to put it up on the screen one more time. I really want you to do this, okay? This is Free the Vote is at We Got the Vote. I can read. I do words. I know that. WEGOTTHEVOTE.org/free the vote. All right. Go there. And that is where, if you, after we get done with this brilliant conversation we're about to have, if you then think, ooh, where can I donate the $5 that I would love to donate to the show? Don't do that. Take the $5 you would donate to the show. I want you to donate to that project. Now, there's another project that's going to be spoken about. There's another chance to donate $5 there too. It's like $10. I apologize. Hold on one second. My mouth is watering. What I did, all right. Confession time. So to not smoke with you, what I did is I have a little bit of an edible in my mouth, and it is a little more, it's causing some salivations. So, sorry, and luckily, you can't get COVID through a computer screen. So if I do spit on you a little bit today, I apologize in advance. Coming up today, after I'm done rambling, which is right around now, I am going to be in conversation under this here philosopher's tree. And this is a treat. There are two ways that this often happens. One, I will be here in conversation with one of the amazing people who I know in my life who is a super duper genius. And I love it when that's what's happening. That's not what's happening today. Today, I get to be in conversation with a stranger who's a super duper genius. Who knew? How does that happen? Well, because I got a co-producer. That's how that happens. So Tracy hooked this up and introduced me to the work of Lil Milagro Henriquez. And I know basically the cursory, the bullet points. I'm going to hit you with some of these. And then we're just gonna we're gonna talk, and hopefully I'll remember to ask more about this stuff. This person has been doing a lot of work in home education and family education in particular around the environment in the wake of the environmental disasters around the United States since the time of Katrina. That was the first dysplasia that I'm aware of that she faced, that then brought she and maybe her family, I don't know, let's find out in a second, to the Bay Area. Well, you may remember about 2 weeks ago or so when the sky was orange on the West Coast. So they left and went out to Colorado. And it is from there that we are now in conversation with Lil Milagro Henriquez. Please to welcome them to this here Philosopher's Tree. How are you, given circumstance? That's a terrible opening question. I'm going to take that right back. Hold on one second. Did you have lunch today? Oh, no, we don't have any sound on you. What's happening right there?
There
oh,
we go.
Now we do. Hey, did you have some lunch today?
I did, and I am visiting my mother in Colorado, Apache Pueblo land, and I had my mom's like famous corn tortillas with a whole bunch of like refried black beans that she made from scratch, and a little bit of cheese, and it was divine.
Nice.
It was like childhood all over again.
Was it with like queso or cheddar? What was it?
It is with queso, but you know, like there's a lot of small businesses shutting down, so I'm like,
it's hard to
really
find.
embarrassed to admit that it was with Parmesan cheese, and my mom was like, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, like, you know, the place where I would normally go for Salvadoreño queso is closed, but here is this Parmesan cheese, but it didn't matter because it was served with love.
Okay, and you're on the south side right now?
Yes, right now.
All right. And how long have you been in Colorado now?
So we've been here since I think like the beginning of September, end of August, beginning of September. And it was actually before the skies turned orange.
Oh, okay.
5 air filters going in our home, and my son was still waking up with like a cough and with a headache, and I was like,
Okay, I see.
mm,
I see.
we're traveling.
Okay, so when you said your son was waking up with a cough and headaches and such, do they suffer from asthma, or do they have, or that was just a result of the fires?
That was just the result of the fires, and I think,
Wow.
and I can go on and on about environmental issues, but like, yeah, I mean, I think that people, like what we're breathing in, both people in the Bay and like even here, because I had to drive through Nevada and Utah
Yeah.
for the Colorado smoke to dissipate. Is like not obviously just like the smoke itself, but it's also like all the toxic pollutions. And
Right.
if you had that thing you shouldn't have had in your shed, that went up in flames, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like breathing in a ton of like really, really, really bad stuff. And so as soon as he couldn't breathe, I thought we have to get out. Like we have the ability and the privilege to get out because we have
Mm-hmm.
family in Colorado. So let's do that for like in childcare, which was actually just as nice
Oh,
as
bless. Right.
right, because we're not used to being able to not have childcare
Yeah.
or support. So that was like also really lovely.
Okay. And so when you say we, what is the configuration of we? Who is we?
It's like me, my partner, and our 2 kids. I have a
Okay.
4-year-old and a 2-year-old,
Uh huh. You have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old?
8-year-old.
8-year-old. Okay, so they're both in school?
Well,
Or you're
he
doing homeschool? What are you doing now?
no, he's virtually in school at a fantastic place, and she was in like a forest school, and now
Mm,
she's not because you know you can't be outside. So
right,
we were
right,
kind of like brown, very granola-y Bay Area families that was like, I want my kid to run feral in a forest and
right.
learn that before they even learn to read or write, because the whole world will be them learning to read or write, and that's not as interesting as what you can find in the forest when you're 4.
There you go. There you go. So how long have you been in the Bay?
So we've been in the
Was
Bay.
it was since New Orleans, right?
No, no, no. So
Oh, okay.
I had moved to, I grew up in New Orleans, moved to Colorado when I was a junior in high school, and then moved to California to Oakland to do my master's, and then like 2 failed PhDs, but my master's, and so we've been here since like 2008.
Uh huh. Okay. All right. So what were the failed PhDs? What was that?
I always I think that like we hear a lot about how obviously people of color are dropping out of PhDs and we don't have as much of our numbers, and also the university is not designed for us, but
Certainly not.
it is intended to not. And I thought like, oh, I can continue to allow and to push for what like standards for what higher education and what success looks like, because my
Mm-hmm.
mom is an immigrant from El Salvador, Cutzatlan, my dad from Nicaragua, and I was like, I'd rather actually reject like that hella colonial mentality that we have to get a PhD to be successful, and this is the pinnacle of success, and kind of do my own thing. But we, my first PhD was in social and cultural anthropology,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't want to disappoint anybody, but it's kind of a spoiler alert that that's hella colonial.
Yeah,
And
super
then
racist.
my second PhD was actually in theology, and it was looking at how immigrant women were using their faith to mobilize.
Oh wow.
And I think that this is, it's been something like it's actually like a passion of mine. It's kind of like my side project is thinking about actually how the left consistently seeds religion to the right. And so then
Mm-hmm.
the right
Mm-hmm.
turn religion into this like horrible, horrible thing. And they can say that they're morally like upright. And the left is like, oh, we don't touch religion, we don't touch Christianity, we don't touch Catholicism. When in reality, like a lot of liberation theology, a lot of like our history of like freedom fighting is like based in like that faith. And so if
Right.
we can
Right.
like actually learn to like mobilize with that, then we will always see the moral ground to the right, instead of actually saying to the majority of people that are faith based, here is how Jesus was like a brown person that was persecuted by the state, that was not on the side of slaveholder, like, I mean, there's all these things that we can say, but, instead it's just like, oh no, we don't touch that. That's the right.
Mm-hmm.
That was my PhD, was looking at like how are women of color using their faith to mobilize for social justice, and how can we start using this as an organizing platform to like radically transform the field.
What is it? I mean, that still informs how you work.
Yeah.
Well, then how could that be a failure then? What's failed about that?
Well, the 20,000 in debt that I made might say a little different, but and that's not that much compared to others. But yeah, that's what that was my PhD.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the debt though, but that's the system of capitalism, right? They're going to get you somewhere,
Right.
And you're using that work to apply what you're doing now. So what brought you to decide that was the way you? I mean, you talked about what theoretically brought you right to that place. What personally brought you to that place to decide that through that a transformative justice through spirituality and through the divine feminine, why was that what spoke to you as the approach forward? Personally, what hit you?
I mean, I think that my family has like a huge legacy. Like I said, my mom is from Cutzatlan, El Salvador, which is the stories I can tell about Cutzatlan and colonization and how they rejected it. But I think that, like, for me, that it was ingrained within me at like a very young age that like we are here to honor our ancestors and to move like our children like forward. And I don't even mean like forward towards progress. I mean like towards happiness, towards sustainability, towards regeneration, connection with the land. And so it was never that like that the understanding that like we are here just to like see how far we can go individually in the grand rat race of life. That is already for so much of my family kind of like an insulting mentality. Like we are here to serve our children and to honor our ancestors. And so growing up, that was like pretty ingrained in me. And it was something that like in my first PhD, like when I was in anthropology, I was actually looking at how do we connect our ancestral lineage. So like, what was my ancestral lineage, which is now at Pipil, how do we connect that with like land, with movement, with like connection? And so it's for me always been like, how do we have like this joint conversation? And we are here, and the joint conversation is ourselves and, our ancestors and our children. Yeah. And how do we move all of that forward? And so I'd been like trying to figure that out. I have like a huge history of organizing through like all these different movements, which are kind of like all over the place, like labor and definitely women's rights, queer rights, education. And it's like always I was searching for home. I was like, what is that one place that I'm willing to like put down deep, deep, deep roots in order to be able to be that tree, right? That matriarchal tree. Many generations from now, people will be like, yeah, my great grandmother Lil Milagro, she was doing amazing things, right? But just like, what is that issue that I really want to care about? But how do I also recognize, as Audre Lorde said, that we do not live single issue lives? So what are all the other movements that I need to be able to bring in to start thinking myself, others, my relationship and community? So yeah, it felt like it was very ingrained within like my history, that it was never just you are here for you and how far you can get ahead.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that changes the context deeply, right? I'm sure, right? Similar experiences around what the purpose would even be of pursuing life in a publish or perish model of academia.
Right.
It's it is not actually about the pursuit of wisdom. It is not about necessarily the pursuit of understanding. And it's a very, very different beast. And if you're not in love with it, I think it can consume you very quickly.
Right.
Yeah, it's a difference between, producing the culture and writing about the culture. And if you're organizing, that's a lot of what you're talking about, I think, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I also think it's like for me, it's also part of like how do we just completely reject the notion that we have to abide by what white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, because I had to say it at one point during the conversation, says
Oh,
it
yeah, we'll
is.
say it a lot. Let's keep saying it.
So like how do we actually reject what success is? How do we reject what professionalism is? Like what how do we reject like these understandings of what the highest level are and say actually no, this can actually be really, really, really high. And it's
Right.
high only if you like pull deep from like culture and roots. And so, for me it was very much, which is always why I say it, like it's two failed PhDs that I am comfortable having failed,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I now know that is not what success is, or like that is not what progress is. And that was also something that was ingrained in me when I was growing up as
Mm.
a child of two immigrants. Like you go to college, you get a good degree, you move out of like, the hood, you do all of this. And I'm like, no, actually, no, this is what success looks like.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not saying I'm like successful, but like, this is what like progress can look like, or this is what being happy in one's position can look like and still serving community.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, and I hear that. And I'll also say that, like, no, I am successful. Do you know what I'm saying? This is good. This is
Mm-hmm.
good. When I talked about it before, and we're moving past that point because, you know, essentially because motherfuckers acting like COVID is gone. The velvet ropes had come down, and so the idea of having there be barriers around who was allowed to have this kind of a conversation in a format of any kind, in any kind of a forum, who had voice. Um, we were all on very, very equal footing for a short time. Short time, right? The ropes are coming back up. Folks are going back to their studios. It's getting a little hoity-toity again. And in the meantime, I think though we did have the opportunity to introduce things of substance that may look different, right? May look like this, that are live and lived experiences that people actually have the opportunity to participate in a different way, which again goes to what you were talking about around community organizing and community development, right? It's a different meaning for those who've been in it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely agree. And I think that that's actually part of why I started mycelium, because instead of trying to talk back to dominance and started instead of saying, okay, like how do we get you to do X, Y, or Z thing, or do you realize how important our knowledge system is, or any of the thousand things that I think that colonialism makes it so that we spend all of our time just
Mm-hmm,
responding back.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
That
mm-hmm.
is exhausting. That is so exhausting, and I'm not here for it. That was something that that was part of the reason why I was actually really excited about leaving organizing, because I'm tired of being like, and then if we just get to the next election or the next ballot measure, or that
Mm.
we didn't have enough, we got to the next election and we won, but we didn't have enough of a majority. And I thought, like, I am so exhausted with actually trying to respond back to dominance. I actually think we need to create entirely different structure
Okay.
for us,
Talk to
in
it.
order to be able to do what we need to do. And if dominance wants to come in, that's fine. Pay a heavy price,
Mm,
right? To even be in on these conversations.
mm.
And so that's why I created mycelium, because I was so tired of like waiting for systems to actually shift and change on that like long arc of justice that people talk about. I'm like, mm-mm. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
we are already here. How do we actually start investing in our communities immediately and protect our communities? And that's where Katrina comes in for me, because I, personally saw like what happened to like my dad, my aunts, my uncle going through Katrina, not knowing where my like dad was. And I was like, people don't, it was, and I knew this before, but like, I was like, governments don't care about poor people of color.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Like whether Republican or Democrat, don't care about poor people of color.
Mm-mm.
And if they do, I applaud them. I'm 100% with it. The amount of time it will take for actual progress to happen at a cultural level is generations deep, even if you care.
Yeah.
Uh, and at the same time, there's a lot of ways that like we can move, government policies immediately to respond. I think both are true. And so in the meantime, though, instead of waiting for them to come save us, for like a white savior to come around, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
actually, we already have the knowledge. We already have the information. Colonization stripped all of that from us. And now so we have to relearn that. At least like for me, like I said, my family's from El Salvador, Nicaragua. My and there's still things I'm learning. There's a ton I'm still learning about my own culture because colonization has been like, let me like rip that away and rip that away and rip that away. So all of the
Right,
ways
right.
I know about being in real relationship to land, to plant relatives, to animal relatives, to the water, to the soil is all gone. And I've had to like relearn that. But like I was like, we're building it up from here. Like we don't
Yeah.
need you to come and like save us. Like we already have the knowledge. Actually, we will save you. And
Mm.
if you do not listen to this knowledge system that we have, we are really screwed.
Well, and here's the thing. Here's my only thing with that is like, we really gonna save him? Do we
No,
have to?
we can save ourselves. Like we can save ourselves. And by save them,
Okay.
I don't like save them, like the whole system. I don't want to save the whole system.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to be able to figure out like how we can in 7 generations from now, from 3 generations from now, be able to still like I have 2 kids. I'm like,
right.
how do I survive enough? And how do we survive and thrive enough so that like our children have that knowledge? And for that, like we do have to have like a massive cultural shift in the way that we do business. Not even business, in the way we have relationships with one another.
Mm. Mm. See, that's what I'm talking about. Now, for everybody who's watching, I want to say something. You didn't lose your mind. We did switch sides. We switched it
Oh,
sides. No, no,
we
I
did.
got it. You know, that way you can say exactly where you are. I did it in a way so you can say exactly how you staying. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. But I didn't want anyone to think that they was like, having a seizure or something like that.
Right, right.
So, you were talking about the ways that we need to switch our approach, and I want to take it back to what you were saying around spirituality in this, and would like to do so in acknowledgement of the moment and the day that we're facing, right? In terms of this joke of a verdict that came down from an AG who, while black, is a clear agent of white supremacy and is married to the niece of Mitch McConnell, who then drew up the warrant and the paperwork for these Yosemite Sam motherfuckers to go up in there and shoot this poor woman up while she's sleeping, right? How if there is a way, what is your opinion about how we might be able to bring spirituality to these moments where it is also required that we live in what Baldwin had referred to as the fire next time, right? We are the fire's here, right? And so how do we utilize our spirituality, not use, I apologize, and hold that sacred in ways to be able to make that fire sacred? How do we do that? How are you doing that? Let me ask that.
I mean, I think that that's already a super deep question. So I know I need to take a deep breath to acknowledge both like this, and you'll see me doing this because it's a really big question. It's a
Yeah.
big moment. Like how do, for me, I ground, and breath helps me ground, right?
Sure.
And I think at the same time, I can recognize I am a non-black person of color, and I can recognize that whatever I am feeling, I can feel, and at the same time, I need to move out of the way for others who are being directly impacted
Mm.
to be able to speak their truth.
Mm.
I want to be able to, and I'll say a little bit about what that looks like for me, but like
Please.
it is not my moment. It should not be my moment. Um, and the way I think about all of this, like that's happening, is I have no answers. Like I have like an uncle that was like killed in a civil war. I have like the own like my like stories of people that I know that have gone through like state sanctioned police violence for like decades, if not
Mm,
generations.
mm,
And it is I the spirituality question is hard for me because like I have like no easy answers, and I'm kind of a sci-fi fantasy nerd, and so I've read a bit of Lord of the Rings, and like there's one of these like quotes by Aragorn, and it's like such a dorky moment, but it's like I keep hope for humanity, I keep none for myself, and I think about that and what it means to like have to, as a mom, have to rise up every single day, feed my kids, be hopeful.
mm.
When in the meantime, like I feel such a deep well of sadness,
Yeah.
and I
Say
don't
again,
have
it was I keep hope for humanity. I keep none for myself.
a
Wow.
it's like not the best, like Lord of the Rings stuff, but it always reminds me of like when moments are deep for humanity, or for like trauma. It's like how do I still have to get up and feed my kids? Is
Yeah.
what it all comes down to. And
That's it.
so I don't have any answers. There's no for me like possible solution of like what made this possible, or like there's no easy place I can go to. And the one place I always though think about is not like to make it right or anything, but like I see Omateo, I see God, I see Creator in movements,
Mm.
in the completely amazing way that humanity has of like grieving together, of marching together, of being present together. Like that's where God lives for me, is in those moments. And I can't say like, oh, it's like there's a reason for that. We'll figure it out, or no. Like I kind of I'm not here to tell anybody that it is okay. It is hard. In some moments, it is just hard to wake up, and and I understand that, and I resonate with that. And so, and again, as like a non-black person of color, I'm not here to give any kind of advice beyond
Yeah.
not even advice, like just the recognition that it is hard, and it affirms for me the deep need to consistently address anti-black racism within the Latinx community, within the indigenous community, within every space that I hold. It's like affirm, 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 reject racism consistently, right? And affirm
Yeah.
people who actually should be leading this moment. So I hear the
Right.
question, and I'm also like, it's not.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have
No. 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 I mean but the thing of it is that's really what is real right now, and I think one of the things that is not being heard from that is being heard from too few, right? And it's the way that you're talking about paying deference to not only the experience, the lived experience of those who are most exploited and most impacted under white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, right? That it's also while recognizing that colonialism is what paved the way for there to be the binary that is black and white supremacy, such that as indigenous people, certainly we have had multiple experiences, right? And speaking to my mother's side now, the side of my family from the pueblos, from New Mexico, right, have been here, had our identities stripped, and yet the proximity to whiteness that is held by that part of my family has no kind of understanding of what it is for me to have been walking through the world as a black person, right?
Mhm.
And one who is phenotypically very easily accepted by all parties as a black person. So it's not, there's no question experientially, culturally, whatever, until I start pronouncing my name, right? Which I overdo because I want them to know. And when you take all of that,
Your language of your name.
listen, listen. That's like when we were talking before. When I was like, "Listen, what you want me to call you?" It was like, "Well, you could call me Lil." I was like, "Look, if you say Lil Milagro, then it's Lil Milagro. We're not doing that." You know what I
Right,
mean? But to be looking at that circumstance in terms of being clear that being anti-colonialist does not mean that somehow you don't have to recognize the anti-blackness on which the system that is capitalism is absolutely and inherently hinged, right? You cannot win at capitalism without being anti-black. You cannot do that. That is not done here, right? And to bring people to that thinking requires the articulation that you brought forward. So I appreciate that, and I also think half spirit will travel. Do you know what I mean? Everybody's got their own spirituality, their own way of resonating with it. I think it for me is a question that's just worth asking. Honestly, anybody who woke up today.
That's right.
You know, anybody who got dressed, who like shook a little off, any black or brown person in the United States, but in particular, brown black women, and in particular black women.
That's right.
Man, y'all, we see you. We see you. Holy shit, we got to get this motherfucker out of here.
There's a quote that like I got. It's like one of my favorite quotes in the world, and it's like the first thing, literally, when I'm home in Oakland, Ohlone Land, like the first thing that greets me when I wake up. It's like right there with my altar, with my uncles and my grandmothers and my aunts, and it says, "Do not be daunted by the suffering of the world. Do humbly now, walk softly now, do justly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it." And I think about that a lot of times, and that gives me hope that like the grief of the world can break and break and break us, and it is meant to. It is literally meant to break us. Like this, what happened yesterday with Breonna Taylor, like that was meant to break us and to break people.
Give us a quote one more time. Give me that quote one more time.
Do not be daunted by the suffering of the world. Walk humbly. I think it's like walk humbly now, do justly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. I can send you the quote later.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
It is the idea that like this is meant to break us. Like all of this is meant to break us. And so it is meant to create divisions, and it is meant to create rage so that we can have so that they can feel confident in having a proper counter response to the rage, right?
Right.
And so yeah, like I think about that every single day. I think about all of the ways in which like the world is difficult and hard, and it is meant to be difficult and hard. It took 9 months for my kid to get health insurance because we were on Medi-Cal for a while, like recently, like in the last like few months. And I was like, it's meant to break us. Wow. Like, you know, we're meant to be funneled through a system that is going to, and I had to go on Medi-Cal because my cilium, it was having, as many or small businesses and organizations was having like financial difficulties after COVID. And so it was the idea that like, this is meant to do this. This is not a coincidence.
Like, no.
You had a hard time getting service for months and months and months, and your kid is sick and you're trying to figure it out and you feel isolated and abandoned. That is on purpose. And so how do we always like continue the work? So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda, too, for finding that quote for us. We have that on the screen.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? These people be paying some attention.
Your face is coming through.
Oh, you went just mute for a second. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Oh, you see what's happening? My computer tripping. It's like, don't even worry about it. We all good. We all good. That's just how that goes. I'm looking at the screen. Y'all could tell I got excited. I started looking down at the screen like I was looking at this. I ain't looking at Lil Milagro. That's not what's happening. I'm looking at y'all. I see you. And thank you for participating, everybody who is here and under the tree with us today. And in particular, again, I do want to say the black women who found any way to get out of bed. I don't know how you did it. I barely could. Fuck these people. That's all I got. That's all I got. Fucking hate them. With love, I mean
All the love.
all the
Hashtag.
hashtag all the loves. We're all in this together. Fuck hell if we are. Yeah, no, I was talking about this recently, right? The same pattern of religious persecutions happening against immigrants, against Latinx folks, against black folks was happening in 1919, 1 year after the last pandemic. And folks was getting chased out of their towns, out of their cities, out of their homes, out of they domiciles, same as now. Just, I mean, you know, New World, same song. New World, same song. It is, as you said, right, designed to break us. That's the purpose of it. That's what it's trying to do. And trying to find solace and resiliency, you know, through the making, through the doing, through being, through moving a muscle to change a mood, through whatever, is surviving, is all that is asked and required right now. But to that end, you have built something designed to help us to survive. Could you speak to what you've been building and what the goal is, and put me on? Let me know about it.
Yeah, so again, I'm a comic book nerd, sci-fi nerd, and so I always go back to like the origin story. And it's like that moment in like comic book frames where I'm like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this happened. But
Oh, you're with the right ones, honey. This blurred central. This blurred central. They ready.
and then so what had happened was in like my family went through Katrina. I saw government doesn't care about us. And then I also, to this day, when I go visit my dad, like the streets are hella funky. Like, I mean, it'll go like a street will literally go up 4.5 feet. And then because of the way the waters were rising through the pipe system and how it broke everything up,
Right.
and it's still there. My dad lives in New Orleans East. And so I was like, oh, yeah, the government really doesn't care about us. And actually having a background in ethnic studies and women's studies was really helpful to understanding how historically the government has not cared about us as much as like Trump. I know he like just is, you know, moving his Patriot Education Act through the works right now at the federal level, but we'll see how it goes. And so organizing is my life. I think like I see God in organizing, like I see creator. I feel like that moment where like people are chanting and there is so much movement and desire for justice, for me, like brings tears to my eyes in a really embarrassing way during those moments. It's always like, whose streets? And I'm like, our streets. And I'm crying.
I'm going to stop you right there. You don't ever get to be embarrassed about that shit. That shit, come on now. That's when God starts screaming at you.
I know. That's what it is, though, for me. So if you have ever
Listen,
wipe away a tear, that's what it is. So I love organizing. It's like my home. And I was serving as a director of organizing at a school, Roses and Concrete, which is where I met Tracy. And it was 2017, and it was the late 2017, and it was like the forest fires. And there was this, and everyone, like the teachers there and the staff and the whole school and actually educators everywhere were just like, oh my God, this is horrible. But if we just put on masks, we can keep teaching, right? Because that's what capitalism does. It's like, just keep going, keep teaching, don't stop. This is what progress is like, teacher, you know? And so it was this moment of just keep teaching through the fires. And I would see kids in portables, like go from their like classroom to the bathroom, and I could see them like gripping their heads like this, or getting a nosebleed because of the smoke, or complaining about headaches. And I was like, this is absurd. This is absolutely absurd. Like, why are we pretending that the world is not deeply troubled? And it's, you know, because of the ways in which like the system tells us that this is what education needs to look like. These are your standards. Keep going, keep going, keep going.
Right.
There's no moment to stop and grieve and to think of a different way. And so I started looking up like, okay, who is if I want to grieve, where do I go, right? Like, what is the organization that is there to support kids in being able to figure out how to be ready for this? And there was no organizations. There's literally still very, I don't know, outside of like teachers individually doing climate adaptation classroom, we're still the only ones.
Right, right.
I would love to be contradicted on that in the comments. Please tell me if I'm missing an organization, but I've been doing it for a while and I haven't known any other organizations. And so I started mycelium to say the government is not here to save us, right? Like the foundations aren't here. Like no big place is going to save us. Like we need to save ourselves. And not only can we save ourselves, but we have that ancestral knowledge to be able to do that. And so I started mycelium with fifth graders and they had to give up an hour of recess and lunch once a week, which is huge. When you're fifth grade, that's like your space. Like everything else, because of adultism, is like limited and is directed. But like your recess is yours.
Right, right.
You know, and they did because they were also terrified. And they were like, we don't know what's happening. Nobody is talking to us about this. I'm scared. So we figured it out together. So I became like a disaster service worker, certified volunteer. And I was like, what if we tried this and this? And they would just like be me and the kids literally once a week for the entire school year, trying to figure out like, what are we going to do? And from that, I really created like mycelium youth network to say, and it's from my anxiety, because I actually suffer from anxiety. And I resonate with Greta, who said that, I forget like what, you know, like what she said that she was like going through, but like anxiety, she said it like, she said something is my superpower. And I was like, that's anxiety. Anxiety is my superpower. Like
her autism is her superpower.
Yeah, her autism is her superpower. And I was like, I hear that. Like, it is not a death, like anxiety. I stay up late and I think about what can happen. And then I create like 10 to 12 different ways around how we're going to work through it.
Yeah, that's real blurred shit right there. That's right. That's right. The deficit is the superpower. Y'all ain't ready. Y'all ain't ready. That's right.
And so that's what I did. And I was like, okay, so if wildfires are coming, clean air is our answer. If sea level rise is coming, water is life is our answer. You know, if drought is coming, if lack of nutritious food is coming, you know, this program is our answer. And all of the programs really emerge from my deep anxiety. And then luckily I am actually working with amazing people who are then like, a little anxiety is a little too, like, let's not too anxiety, but they're like, okay, like how do we put standards into that? And how do we put culturally relevant education into that? And how do we add STEM into that? How do we add art? How do we add culture? How do we add life? And so what we've done is like, we've created this organization that is really here to both support young people in surviving and thriving during climate change using ancestrally grounded practices. That is like our basis. Like, and when we try to do STEM, which we do, you know, like it is always like from the base of like, how do we ground STEM, not even STEM, how do we ground ourselves in ancestral traditions and practices and traditional ecological knowledge? Because if we just put, and I fundamentally believe this, if we just put a science solution on climate change, we are doomed as a species. We are dooming innumerable species as well, right? Because like we are, the way that we've set up the system. But what we need to do is actually think through the ways our ancestors have survived for generations upon like thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years.
Oh, you're talking like Western science, right?
Yeah, like more like traditional, like Western science. Because we see a lot of that, right? Like I'm in a lot of adaptation circles and it's all Western science.
Yeah, they try and put like a solar panel on the bullshit to fix it. No, we're going to build you something out of plastic for you that you're going to have to buy from us to fix it.
Or like take that compostable fork or spoon that people rarely compost.
That you're not going to compost.
But you can feel good, right? Because that's how capitalism works.
Here goes a paper straw in your big ass plastic cup. That fixed it right up.
And so like we really try to have like ancestral knowledge basis grounding system. It is the way that we rethink our relationship with like ourselves, our community, our family, our plant and animal relatives, water, soil. It's like, how do we actually fundamentally shift the way that we're thinking and then put some science, like Western science, or like this kind of thing also on top of it, so that we can actually create something so that when the sky was turning orange in Oakland, we were like, okay, here's how you build a DIY air filter that is less than like $40-50. Here's a tinctures that you can actually make, or infusions that you can make to like build up your respiratory health. Here's how you might be more impacted because you are in a place within Oakland or the Bay Area that has like no trees and you have nothing, and so it's like, how do you measure that, and how do you actually thoughtfully consider the impacts? And so we try to do all of that. We are like, here's what it means to be in like the world that we're in, and how as a young person you can be ready so that when it happens, you're not like, what do I do now? Because that's what I do. I'm like, the sky is orange, or I can't breathe, or there's like the food system is breaking down. Like there's all these ways that the system is breaking down around. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And we go to these immediate solutions. And there are amazing organizations doing amazing climate change, climate activism work. They should continue to do that. I fully support that. We do some of that in our program, but our program is also very specifically focused around how do we survive. Once you go to the march, when you come home, if you still can't breathe, what do? Don't wait for like a lot of change. Don't wait for something to happen. Here's what you can do immediately in your home.
Right. So direct action. Yeah. So direct action, and intervention, right?
Direct action and direct solution.
Okay, great. And as you're talking about that, when you say that, I'm assuming, please correct me if I'm wrong, that this is primarily women and femme-led?
It is. Thank you it's actually predominantly queer, women, POC-led.
Well, come on now. Of
color. Our board of directors is predominantly people of color, almost entirely women. We have like one amazing guy who's like a hell of an ally. And our advisory board is also almost all, if not all, POC. And it's not even just like, when I wanted to build the organization, I'm like, people should, like, students should actually see themselves represented. That does not just mean like one or two types of people. Like, we really try to pull from like actually the beauty and diversity that is Oakland, that is the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And so it is POC led, but it's also very diversely POC led. It is queer led.
I'm proud of y'all. Where are these mans? Now, I'm proud of y'all. Y'all the shit. Where are these mans? I am so goddamn tired of y'all having to be the ones doing all the lifting all the goddamn time. Don't invite them in because they're going to break it. You're doing it right. You know what I'm saying? But shit.
No, I mean, so I have, again, been an organizer. And like, when I say like the grassroots level, it is largely women of color, femme people.
You know who it is.
Work. And like, I'm also, when I also see our donations coming in, it is also women of color, femme people. And so, if you are like a white guy, I'm like, please donate.
Please donate.
That differentiation between how much I make versus how much you make, real, donate. And
very real.
We're trying to be more, we want those ideas of people that are actually experiencing the issue to be the people that are leading the issue. Most experienced.
And that's what it has to be, right? Because the thing is, when I say, and I want to be explicit, not because we didn't understand the shortcut language that I was using, that if men are invited in, they're going to break it. What I'm actually referring to is all socio-political and historical evidence of what happens if men lead anything. Also, that the levels of leadership that are necessary right now, I believe, and I think you're demonstrating that, is a deference to the divine feminine, and that is without the ability to work in deference to and in partnership with women, queer folks, femmes. I don't know how you could be part of a leadership movement to move it forward. And that comes through decades of effort and trust with those folk. Because if you don't have trust of the folk, you're not going to actually hear what's really, really, really is going on. And as male presenting people, when they first do, they're not going to be ready for it, and it's horrible. And they're not ready to hear what it really is. I don't
and
think.
and I think that like that, I can agree with that. At the same time, like I also think that one of my is that the idea I think about like what is so threatening about like women's rights, what is so threatening about queer rights, what is so threatening about workers' rights, and there is something fundamental that is threatening there because power resides there. And you malign it and you minimize it and you say we should be the dominant, and there's like all of this to like make it the dominant, when in reality the real power, because the real fear lies in like what would happen if we would have these conversations, like what happens when we start thinking outside of heteronormativity, like what happens when we start thinking outside of like masculine, like there's so many things, like what happens if we actually stop focusing as like, there's a whole diet industry, like what happens there, and like what is the fear there, and the fear there is power, and the power there is the knowledge that like we fundamentally hold. And so I think about like what it means for us to be able to say like we are going to lean directly into that power, not as like an anti this, right? Like we're not anti anything. We are pro the ways in which we have seen historically these systems be denigrated and like disavowed and pushed to the side, and we're like, no, actually this has like knowledge, let's lean into that. And I know at some point would love to talk about our conference, because I'd love to talk about how that
break it down. This is a good point. Shit, plug it. What is it? What you doing?
And so like, yeah, as part of that, like we were thinking about like what is that like system, and one of my favorite things, again, sci-fi fantasy nerd, is like reading indigenous and Black sci-fi fiction and fantasy. And I love it because I'm a whole Tolkien fan as well. Like Tolkien I love. Lots of race issues, obviously lots of gender issues.
Listen, it is the most racist, patriarchal, wonderful story about elves and hobbits, and I want second breakfast, so fuck off if you're gonna, like, we're not doing that. I can put a whole Lukumi reading on top of Tolkien like it's nothing, baby. The dwarves are Ogun, Gandalf is Obatala, Oekwa, Hepa. Come on, come at me. Don't play with me with it. I love it. I love it. Keep going.
Both and so part of like what we were thinking is here is this horrifying moment in time that we are in, and I don't want to say it's worse than other moments in time, because our ancestors have gone through ridiculous amounts of suffering and trauma.
They went through some shit.
Seed planting and resilience and hiding culture in drums and songs. And so like what we were thinking is like we have a fall fundraiser coming up, our fall conference, and we were recognizing the way that like now that climate change feels like it is real to people, like the sky literally turned orange. People are like, climate change, it's going to affect us soon. And we've been getting all of these requests to do things and to have events. And we're like, let's actually just have a gathering. Like what people need is to have a gathering. How do we connect? And so we went to our young people and we said, as we really try to do at Mycelium, like, what do you want? Like, if you had to go to a gathering for like 2 or 3 days, like, what would you go to? And they were supremely uninterested in going to like a gathering like of meetings. And what they were interested in was...
That's so good to hear, because my old ass wouldn't have had no other... Oh, we're going to put on a conference. We'll bring you some hip-hop. We're going to rap at it. It's going to be the thing.
Speaker talking about climate change and his raps. No, and so...
So what they say? What they need?
They said that they wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Damn.
Surprising, real. And the one class I teach at Mycelium, because I'm not an educator, I bow down to our educators. They do beautiful, ridiculous things. And I don't just say that like they're our heroes. Like we really try to support them in like 1,000 different ways, because you can't just call somebody a hero and then not support them. But what the one class I do teach is Dungeons and Dragons. And I teach D&D from an environmental justice focus. So we'll talk about things like clear-cut foresting. We'll talk about logging. We'll talk about socialism. We'll talk
Yeah.
about Black Lives Matters in a D&D campaign.
Yeah.
And what that
Yeah.
does creates a safe space for young people to come together to be somebody that they don't feel like they can be or they are, to like
Yes.
big, and then to go through builds together as a team, figure out solutions that are completely out of the box thinking. It allows them to like really safely role play.
Oh, I'm gonna make Gamora look soft. I want in.
Do it. We can. I would love to have like a 3 hour like let's do like
Oh my
POC,
God.
POC D&D. Like I will lead it,
Oh my
and
God.
and we like run from this one
You
particular guy.
playing now because I know some nerds who might be able to bring this and put this on Twitch now.
I
I'm dead ass serious.
our conference being on Twitch. Like we are all for it.
George,
And
George,
so
you see this? Do you see this happening? George, I'm looking at you, nigga. You hear me? Chris, help out. Okay. All right, keep going.
let's figure it out. And then so what we do is like I lead these games, and the youth that were there were like, we just want a game. Like everything is happening, everything is falling apart. Obviously, things are really, really bad. We want a game.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of adults see that and they're like, oh, they just want to escape. And here's how like video games lead to no, like youth want a safe space to talk about difficult things without like the weight of the world. And this is like a quick side note, but one of the things I hate with when adults talk about youth is like they give me so much hope. They are so amazing. And I'm like, we need to create safe spaces for them to be able to do what they do. And then when they have those solutions, we need to give them the power to be able to enact them. That's what makes it hopeful. Like this, anyway, it's a side note. But so they said they wanted to dream and play. And so we created at Mycelium Youth Network, we created Apocalyptic Resilience, an Afro-Indigenous futuristic adventure. And it'll be a 2-day conference. It's pulling heavy from like all the best parts of, all my favorite parts, I should say, of what I love doing, which is gamer culture, which is Dungeons and Dragons, and which is Afro and Indigenous sci-fi fiction. Because that fiction, the Afro-Indigenous sci-fi fiction, pulls deeply from our ancestral traditions and cultures to envision a future that feels decolonial. I'm like, that's my favorite. Let's do it. And so there's going to be 2 tracks. There's a youth track, and youth are free. So if you are a young person, you can come in free because I am not going to charge you to raise money to serve you. So if you are a young person, come on through. We will figure it out. And youth will begin by creating a character sheet. Because that's the first thing you do when you start a video game, you create your character.
That's it.
So our workshop is going to be individual, like creating your character sheet, individual choices for powerful impact. And every single workshop that youth will go through subsequently will be about leveling up in some way around climate adaptation or mitigation or environmental justice, or building tools for their inventory. The youth will receive workshops on like, let's create a DIY medicinal first aid kit. Let's figure out how to do water catchment from what you have in your home. Let's learn how to like how to grow food so that you can then have that food in your inventory. But when you grow it, can you like put a little carbon sequestration in it and bring down the global temperature? And then the more workshops youth take, they will be able to take that into their game the second half of the second day. That will be we're hoping to have like 8 to 10 simultaneous Dungeons and Dragons games going, where youth are running through an environmental justice issue. But like there'll probably be some orcs and some elves and some like it's also fantasy, right? And so and then we want it to feel safe. So they're like, oh, like this elf just like shot an arrow at you, and I want like a young person to be like, I just made a DIY first aid kit and I went to that workshop and it's in my inventory. I'm gonna put some salve on that. You're good, right? Or like you're coming to a polluted river and you can't drink it, but you're thirsty. I went to that workshop. I did this, and so we'll like play it through like that. And then for the adults, I want the adults to like come together. And as Marilyn Zuniga, our educational director, says, like, I want us to freedom dream together. I want us to think through not like how do we make small incremental progress on a larger political issue, but how do we, if we are in an apocalyptic time, how do we dream into it? Because apocalypse means that the system is failing and has failed completely. So what are we going to put in its place? How are we dreaming together about what that means? So one of our workshops is going to be entitled summoning the beast in order to slay it, the end of capitalism. And it will be with like one of my really good friends that has an article about how it's easier to imagine the zombie apocalypse than the end of capitalism. And I'm going to put that person in conversation with a radical mutual aid person. And I want us to think through what the end of capitalism, this late stage capitalism, looks like. So,
yeah.
Anyway, I'm super excited.
That's so dope.
I mention it at the end of this conversation.
That is so dope. And I'm going to acknowledge that I got so excited that I was referring to Jaron George, who I just kept calling George, who Jaron, you know, I got excited. I see y'all doing the D&Ds. I see y'all doing the role plays. Yeah, I'm gonna put people in contact after we're done here, because
somebody in the audience, like some George in the audience, like.
I know there's just somebody named George. Jaron's sitting at home going, I hope this nigga is not talking about me. Jaron, I'm talking about you. I'm so sorry, boo boo. That's me. You know, with the MS. It fell in my MS hole. I lost your first name. I got it back out. You got to forgive me. I'm disabled. If you don't forgive me, you're an asshole now.
I should say our social media person wanted me to mention that our handle is Mycelium Youth Network on Instagram. You can sign up for the conference on our website, myceliumyouthnetwork.org. We should put that in the chat because nobody knows how to spell mycelium.
Oh, we've been having it on the screen all throughout. It's been showing up multiple times. I'm going to put up the Instagram one more time for folks to be able to look at now. It's on the screen with you. Folks, have a look at that. One more time. Also on the screen, you will see the link to the Even Bright. If you are on, what is it? The YouTubes there, then you've been seeing all of these things. Rewind it 10 seconds, write it down. If you're on Facebook, then it's in the chats. Probably on Smoke and Mirrors page, maybe on my page. I don't know. Either way, what you need to do is you need to log on, and you need to support the youth, and you need to come up off of the ducats is what it is. It's very simple. And attend.
And if you're an educator, the pricing is created so that you can get professional development funding for it. So like when you actually click on as a teacher, you will see like the Donors Choose link and how you can use that exact language, put that on a Donors Choose, and let somebody else that has much more money than you pay for your ticket. That's our goal.
If you got a white friend, this is when to tap them. Y'all know what it is. White people, all y'all motherfuckers talking about you got a black friend, you got a brown friend. Let's go. Come up off it.
For a reason, if you want it.
Come up off it. Skin in the game, y'all. Skin in the game. We got less than 20 days to get your census information in. Get your goddamn census information in. We're I think 36 days to November 3rd. You know what that means. And these motherfuckers are doing all the shenanigans in between here and there. And while they are doing that, have some fun and create some space for young people to actually talk about it, because guess what? We already fucked it up. Our marches didn't quite get it, and so it's going to be deeper than that, and it's going to be about systems change and global transformation. And Lil Milagro is one of the folks who is helping to lead the way. And so bow down, as it were. Hey, thank you so much for sharing some time, sharing the information, sharing your spirit, and for the first time ever, getting me excited about the possibility of playing some D&D. That was my brother shit.
About that, I am 100% serious. I think we need a space to vision and dream and play.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not playing. No, I was the comic book kid. He was the D&D kid. So like, and because we were brothers, if we got to save Zelda, I couldn't. But hey, this is dragons and sandals and swords for purposes. I'm here for a purpose for it. I'm with it. Yes. I'm with it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Everyone who has been here, who is here, give up some applause for Lil Milagro Henriquez, please. You stay there. And just stay on the line. I see you in my Skype zone, And this is the part I'm saying it out loud because if I don't, what happens is this is the part where then whoever's the guest just sort of disappears and hangs up on me. But there's still there's some show, and they're looking at it now. But we're gonna cut all this out. They don't know. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm gonna run to the restroom while you say goodbye and
do that. And so I'm going to bring your face on one more time so you can make an official goodbye since you announced that on the show. Bye. Hey, thank you one more time for Lil Milagro for being here. I really, I needed this. I hope this was some shit that meant something to y'all. I needed to find a way to find some hope, some resilience. And not that the youth gave it to me, and it is not the job of any woman or femme to ever give it to us, but by hearing and watching the thing being built, the movement being built, and by watching the moon rather than watching the finger that is pointing at the moon and pointing out that there might be something better there. It once again gave me help. And so thank you so much for spending some time. And thank you again for Lil Milagro. That was absolutely brilliant. Before we check out, hey, one more time, I'm going to say this thing again. I know you're tired of it. You know, I'm as bad as the fucking Democrats all in your face with it. And it's not because I'm one of them. It's not because I'm one of them. No, indeed. But you gotta get there. You gotta get there with it. Please go over to wegotthevote.org. Free the vote. What we're doing is throwing down to pay for all of the fines for the ex-incarcerated, ex-prisoners, ex-imprisoned in Florida who have been given back their voting rights, whose voting rights have since been stripped them by a judge who is in fact currently nominated to be the next Supreme Court justice. And so we need you to go there because if our votes didn't matter, they wouldn't be trying so hard to suppress them. For folks who may just be tuning in now, I see you. Guess what? This is on YouTube. Go ahead and go there and you can rewind it. The live stream will show up again tomorrow. I will post a link to the YouTube after this. You'll see it on my page. You'll see it on the Smoke and Mirrors Instagram page, which is one of the things we talk about when we're leaving, which is now. This has been another episode of Smoke and Mirrors. And thank you so much for spending some time under the philosopher's tree with us here today. If you would like to check out that IG that I was just talking about, please do that. It's Smoke and Mirrors CCB. The CC and the B are for comedy, culture, and bullshit. Please also go over to the Twitter where you can see me say words. And I guess if you want to, that's at Caballo Negrito. There's my dumb face right over the top of it, smoking out some words. Hey, do you have an idea about a subject for this show, a guest who should be here, or a thing to say about it? Go ahead and reach out. That's at smokeandmirrorsccb@gmail.com. This right here is an event that is hosted, produced, written by myself, Carlos Kareem Wyndham. This is also produced, and this episode in particular, God damn it, I made it all the way to the end. You'd think I could make words by now. I've been doing this a very long time. And this episode in particular was produced by Tracy Tatamy. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for spending some time. Please take care of each other. Take care of yourself. If you are going out, stop it. But wear a mask if you're going to do it. And when you come home, wash your hands. And when you go to the bathroom, wash your hands. And before you eat, wash your hands. And when we're done here, Go wash your filthy fucking hands, okay? I will be back next week. No show tomorrow. Guess what, though? I love you. Okay, bye bye.